Hello, I'm Peter Williams and I'm one of the property solicitors at Thackeray Williams. I want to talk to you today about auction properties. The process for buying and selling at auction is really quite different to buying a property through an estate agent, where they take the property off the market some time before you exchange contracts, and you have plenty of time to ask questions and visit the property as often as you like. At an auction, you have no idea if you're going to get the property until the hammer goes down, and when the hammer goes down, that is the same situation as exchanging contracts. There are advantages and disadvantages to buying and selling at an auction. From a seller's perspective, auctions are a good idea if you have a property that is in poor structural condition, and it is therefore difficult to sell the property to someone who is buying with a mortgage. So it's a very good idea if you're desperate to get rid of a property to put it on at auction, and you should hopefully be able to get to exchange of contracts a lot more quickly. Auctions tend to appeal to property investors, so the idea is that you can sell the property to someone that's prepared to take a bit of a risk buying it, and normally these are people that are quite experienced at buying properties, and they will then be prepared to spend a lot of money doing it up. So it's very much a long-term investment for the people that buy the properties. Now, of course, the disadvantages at selling at auction are that you have to pay the auctioneer an upfront fee every time you put the property into an auction, and there is a risk that the property will not actually sell at the auction. And as I've mentioned earlier, you generally sell the property for less money at auction rather than if you go down the route of selling it via an estate agent. So there are many points that you need to be aware of if you are instructing a solicitor to deal with the sale of an auction property. The most important thing to do is give your solicitor lots of notice that you are planning to sell the property at auction. This gives the solicitor plenty of time to obtain the legal documents to the property from Land Registry, and the solicitor should also carry out searches on the property and enclose that with the pack. It's also a good idea for the selling solicitor to actually read the legal documents and identify any questions that may be asked, and then hopefully you can put together answers and perhaps even draft indemnity insurances for any title defects. If you are purchasing at auction, the advantage of doing so is that you can normally buy a property for less money than if you were buying a property in the more conventional way. It's also a very quick way of buying properties. So if you are worried that a vendor will take their time to sell the property and you are desperate to get into a property, or you're desperate to realise your investments, then auctions are something to consider. But the downside is that you are given a lot less time to carry out due diligence on an auction property. So you're not really able to visit a property as often as you would like, and you will spend a lot of money instructing a solicitor to look at an auction pack, and there's a chance that lots of other people will also be instructing solicitors to look at auction packs, and after all that money and potentially the cost associated with doing a survey, you may find that the vendor then sells to someone else. As I've mentioned also, normally if you're buying at auction, you can't get a mortgage on the property straight away, so in most instances you'd need to be able to afford to buy the property in cash, which obviously does rule out a lot of potential purchasers. And there's also a risk that if you buy the property and you haven't had time to do a survey, there is a chance it might not be mortgageable, and you have no idea how much the property will be worth should you try to sell it on the open market. Again, when it comes to instructing a solicitor, it's very important to give the solicitor plenty of notice that you're interested in the property. This therefore gives the solicitor plenty of time to go through the documents, send you a detailed report that you can consider carefully, and then if you or your solicitor have any questions, then you've got plenty of time for the auctioneer or the seller or their solicitor to answer the questions. So if you have any questions about the process for buying and selling at auction, then do by all means give one of our solicitors a call, and we'd be more than happy to have a chat with you. We all have expertise in buying and selling at auction, and we would be more than happy to help you. Thank you very much indeed.